Riverside.
There it is. All right. All right, puppy.
We're rolling.
Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Would you rather? Would you rather go into the past and meet your ancestors, or go into the future and meet your great-great-grandchildren?
That's an interesting question. And right away I'm leaning towards, us being history teachers, definitely to meet ancestors, kind of pick the brain, get to know them, and see what kind of kinks that they had that have kind of funneled into who I am. Maybe my future ancestors will have similar interests in me, but me thinking like, I don't think I'm that interesting. And I'm a little selfish in the way I'd rather know more about myself rather than pitch myself to the future. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, I
What you got? What do you think?
I think I would like to go for selfish reasons to the past because, well, I wouldn't say maybe not so much selfish, but
I think we're geared that way.
yeah, just because I'd like to know more about like where I'm from, like how my great grandparents came to be, what motivated them, what was their drive,
In a totally different time. And
how did they party,
Yeah.
like I don't know. It just to that I find a lot of interest, to understand myself better. But at the same time, part of me wants to go to the future and share that information with my future family and say, hey, this is where you're at.
Yeah.
And sort of share that previous struggle. Not so much that I'd want to share like, oh, this is how I struggle. No. I'd want to be like, people that came before you laid down the groundwork for you to be where you're at. So, part of me also wants to go to the future.
We existed before the internet. I remember calling my girlfriend or my wife in the dorms.
Yeah.
And in order for me to get a hold of her, she had to be home. If she wanted to get a hold of me, I had to be home. And that, just thinking about that now is super unusual.
And you had to make sure that nobody was using the internet.
Well,
that's when the internet
internet.
came out. You're talking about before. So once like AOL came out,
The dial-up.
you had that dial-up, that sort of that sound running back, and like, hey, get off the internet. I'm gonna use a phone. But you're talking about before that.
Okay,
you know
mixing
that?
lines,
So some of that information is like, man, you guys got it easy back then. Like if we want to call three-way, you had to, make sure you dial the right number and not hang up on each other.
That's right.
Now it's just, I don't know, the future probably has different ideas. Now you got stuff like that where you can communicate on your phone. And
Again, somebody messed with me. Yeah.
like you could probably gonna have holograms later and like pop up like Star Wars style.
Yeah.
You have little your little R2D2 on your
Help me, Obi-Wan.
phone,
I'm my only hope.
Yeah. So with that, kind of leading into what we want to talk about today, your first years. If you could go back to your first year as a teacher or second year, what would you tell yourself? What you know now to your first year teacher self, what would you tell yourself going back?
First off, my first year was an absolute train wreck. Like, my 4 degrees, that's all I had walking into the classroom. I'd had some managerial experience at UPS. I had some sales experience at Red Bull. So, like, getting out and talking to people is never really an issue. But now, I'm sitting in front of a stage of 30 to 40 kids, and they're heeding on my every word. So, like, do I overvalue, undervalue myself? So, what would I tell myself? I don't know if I would change anything. Honestly, don't. I don't think I would change anything. I don't think I would want to just let myself just go through the freaking ringer. I'm more appreciative of the people that influenced me, like the people that kind of took care of me, mentored me along the way. Sometimes hard knocks are good for us, and I think all that stuff created who I am now, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. No, I would agree with you too. Is that you have to go through those struggles and get through those hard times to really. That's where you learn. It's through that struggle.
Yeah.
And like you said,
Learn by failure.
You learn by failure. You got to learn from your defeats, you know, and those mistakes is what molds you now. But if I could go back, not to say I would change anything, but I would definitely tell myself a couple things. One, content will come, like the curriculum itself. Eventually, you're going to learn it.
That's
fully,
a good one. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, because I think for me, that was one of my major concerns. Like, God, I got to learn this stuff. I got to be able to teach it because of the style of teaching back then. What was like the norm? You know what I mean? Like, especially as history teachers, I remember back to.
I thought I could walk in my first year and just like hand out worksheets because that's kind of what I was used to.
Well, what I was about to say is that, you know, back in our day, you know, old school style history teachers would lecture, stand up, you take
Teach
notes.
how you were taught.
Right? And so I kind of was anticipating something like that, but not fully realizing that I don't really need to know all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's sort of what I've adopted now is I don't need to know the material. I don't need to know the curriculum as much as they need to learn it.
Yeah.
And so now I've sort of changed my style in the way that, I'm going to know this stuff so that way I know what kind of questions to ask.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily need to know the content that much. They do. You need to learn it.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to regurgitate that back in,
Yeah.
whether on a quiz or a project or whatever. But I would tell myself back then, don't stress so much over the content. You're going to learn that stuff.
That's good. Okay, if I could go back and do anything, it'd be that. You know, now they're pitching content over curriculum.
Yeah.
And I think it was about year 5 or 6 as the day I realized that, you know what, being a content teacher is less important than being more of a child psychologist in what we do. We're in charge of 150 kids a day. Even at the elementary, they're in charge of 30 to 40 a day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still a heavy responsibility.
I still would take 130, 140 kids a day than, 25, 30 kids in a classroom all day.
We have hour stints.
Yeah.
We're creating one lesson, not 6.
They're running it's my respects to elementary school teachers.
Big time. I never got that. The content is easier, but still, they're trying to do the same thing as us. They're trying to create a certain culture, certain norms in the classroom, and that's the biggest thing, kind of getting everybody moving and getting everybody to shut the hell up or feel included or,
well, I mean, and then that's truly like, they set the groundwork for us. Like the foundation of everyone's learning is laid on the first, 2-3 years,
Yeah.
And so, it's a different beast, but I guess we can go into like some of our personal either challenges or successes as our first years. I always say I got really lucky in my first job. Mm-hmm. I fell in at the right place at the right time. For me, classroom management was never an issue. I never had that many issues when dealing with students who had behavior issues. Not to say that I never had issues. I have. We still do. But for me, I think if I go into any the successes that I had was making a connection with my students from the very beginning.
Yeah. And
so partly because I was very young, when I started teaching, I was 23. And so many of the students that I had were only 5-6 years younger than me.
It's insane.
And I'm just like, I was a kid, basically.
I think I was like 27, 28, and I still felt like that. Mm-hmm. And you were 4 years younger when you had your first go round, so yeah.
Like for me, it was just, I guess I was relatable, especially because where I first started teaching at San Luis High School, San Luis, Arizona, I grew up there. Like I'm a border town kid. I lived in Yuma during the week, and on the weekends was San Luis. Pit stop in Somerton. Shout out to Soma, if anybody's listening, Soma. And my nana, my tata lived in Somerton, and then we would go to Mex, San Luis Mex, for the weekend. And so I understood the kids, better. I was them, and so some of the things that they try to get away with, it's not gonna work because I used to do this crap.
Yeah.
And so I was like, come on. So like they found me relatable in that sense, but also because of the fact that I was able to gain their trust and gain their respect.
That's a big one.
And that is so huge for especially for young first year teachers at the middle school and the high school level.
You make a kid feel like they're out to get you, and they are going to turn into the kid.
Yeah.
That where you're going to be out to get them. Yeah. And I definitely took on that mentality in high school. If somebody makes me feel like the villain, you started adopting that mentality. So I know my trip turned in that way. I mean, that's why I put my grades on the wall. That's how I have a suspension.
Oh, that's right. That's
when I got suspended from the school. And so I mean, I only put it up there just so kids can know that, you know, just because
that's true.
you're not good in high school
transcripts.
Just because you suck at high school doesn't mean you're a dumbass. And I'm sure I've met my own characters in my life that very bright people. They just didn't do. Oh, I couldn't do it. I can do this math or whatever. No, man, but you're doing, you know, some kind of research, mechanical work with these new computer designs. And like, you know, shout out to Juan Velasco if you're listening. You know, yeah.
But I mean, and so when you think about the kids that maybe we found the most challenging at times, I always try to think, okay, when I was your age, why would I have done that? Why would I have, you know, try to pull that prank or try to be funny or make a funny joke or whatever? And a lot of times it's, you know, that kid's trying to impress somebody, or they're trying to prove themselves to somebody.
What's up?
Or they're just they just need attention for whatever reason. And so I try not to make certain things that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you want this type of attention, I'm not going to give it to you. Instead, I'm going to give you individual attention and deal with this issue differently than what you want. But nobody's perfect. I'm not the perfect teacher at all. But I think when it comes to dealing with, you know, behavioral issues, I've always tried to put myself in the shoes of the kid and say, okay, why are they doing this at the time that they're doing, and, you know, deal with it individually instead of shouting and you know, singling them out in front of the crowd. Like,
so my first year, that's what I did, and a few years later, this kid came back and he talked to me. He's like, "Hey, Mr. Centennial, sorry about this, and that, how I was." And I asked him, you know, why in the hell did you guys feel the need to push me to this limit? So honestly, Mr. Santana, we knew we could get you to that point, so we would do that on purpose. And it wasn't so much I looked at the kid like you're a piece of garbage kid. It was more of me reflecting on who I was as a kid and like, oh yeah, we used to do that crap too. Without even thinking about it, like we were those same kids. We know who we could mess with. It's just an intuitive thing.
You knew what buttons to push on certain teachers at certain times.
Absolutely.
Like the same thing when I was in junior high. Man, we were terrors. Like, we were good students, but when you gave us an opportunity to pull a prank,
I think about junior high.
Oh my gosh, we would pull pranks all the time.
Like that,
I remember one time we decided, hey, you know what'd be cool is take water guns to school and just in between class like shoot each other with water guns.
Yeah,
that was a bad idea. I thought it'd be a good idea to spray paint my water gun black. And long story short, on my way home, we went to Walgreens, and the friend I was in decided it'd be a good idea to stuff some water balloons in his pocket. And on the way out, there was a cop waiting for us right outside of Walgreens. And we're like, oh crap, they caught us on the cameras. They had just installed new cameras at Walgreens. And he said, what's in your pockets? I was like, oh, just water balloons and, you know, some Winter Fresh gum or whatever. I always had Winter Fresh gum on it. And he said, anything else? And I'm just like, well, just my water gun. And I pulled it out, and he saw it, and he's like, huh? And he laughed. He's like, okay, I got a phone call from someone down the neighborhood saying that two kids were flashing pistols at each other. And they thought it was a pistol because it was a black water gun, but we thought it was a funny joke to play at school. And, you know, kids got in trouble and stuff, but I luckily knew how to get around things and didn't get in trouble.
Yeah.
But it was like, you know, I had to learn the hard way. The cop drops us off at home, and I got lucky because when the cop dropped me off at home and they knocked on the door, my brother opens the door. And at the time, he was already in college. And he's like, how you doing, sir? Do you know this young man? And my brother goes, yeah, that's my son. He's like, well, you know, I just got a call. This guy is, you know, waving around a water gun, looks like a pistol. He's like, thank you, officer, I'll take care of it. And so he shuts the door, and the cop leaves, and then my mom walks in. She was in the backyard, and she's like looking at me like, what's wrong? I was just like deer in the headlights. Oh crap, don't go outside because she's gonna find the cops.
Yeah.
But I mean, those little things that we do when we're younger, I mean, they're harmless. Sometimes, I mean, kids don't really mean, they don't mean anything like bad or trying to be malicious. It's just they're trying to be funny, trying to pull pranks. So I try to understand, why they're trying to do something.
I remember a big thing culturally going on back then was tagging.
Oh yeah.
Because I always talk about, hey, I used to hang with my cousin Frank in Yuma, and I think it was junior high or early years in high school when he got busted for that, when wear certain baggy pants or whatever the hell.
Oh yeah. Probably wearing jeans.
Yeah, so it still wasn't
Anchor blues.
Yeah, there was still gangs at Okie Town or whatever the hell, but it was, for the most part, it was cops don't have to deal with the crap they have to deal with now since Columbine, right?
It's
but
a
very different world.
It's a different time.
Very different world.
But if you think about it, if kids were to do that today, bring water guns to school,
they did it last year.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how different is it now to be
definitely more controversial?
Yeah.
And nobody spray painted their water gun black because luckily they identify it's a totally different era.
It was legit though. It was a legit water gun. Like, I have to admit.
But I remember we talked about like teacher education. I think in the last episode, and what teacher education did you get in your undergrad? You talked about a little bit, and mine was like, I think I remember taking one, maybe two classes in that. I just don't remember much from college, but they asked us to go up and do a presentation on a lesson, or I forget what. I had no idea how to do any of this. I don't think they lectured on it because I actually kind of halfway paid attention to lectures. Maybe it was reading because I had never really kept up with reading very well. But I remember walked in and I presented something and I knew it was just trash right from the get-go when I started presenting it. And then I definitely got a wrong impression of what was being asked from the assignment. And I heard a little voice kind of in the back left corner, like, and he's going to be a teacher? Like, oh, just a shot, just boom. And I started rethinking, what am I doing, this and that. And that was before I knew I had a kid coming. So once I found out I had a kid coming, everything was rewired. And I was going to accomplish this. But
your hopes and dreams just...
But we keep on talking about classroom management and how to manage certain personalities and how not to... If you let them get you worked up, they're just going to keep on doing it. And that's something that definitely wasn't... I don't remember being emphasized neither in my undergrad and then not even in my my teacher education courses.
But how did you react to that? Like when the kid said, like, was it directly to you or just kind of like under his...
No, there was two people whispering. And they kind of mentioned that, and I overheard it. And but sometimes you need to hear stuff like that because was I on the right path? Hell no, I wasn't. Even when I first when I was doing the BITS program, the induction program here, I remember my induction lady. God, I forget her name, and maybe it's a good thing because I don't want to say it on air. I remember they told me that maybe this isn't for you. Maybe you should look for another career.
Trying to kind of steer you away, like you suck, kid. Maybe think about.
But I look back of it like that was a good thing for me because all I did was piss me off. When I get pissed, I tend to go harder. Yeah. And so we asked the thing: would you go back to and tell your old self anything? I think I wouldn't change anything except for the idea of what is it over content? What did we say?
Curriculum,
curriculum over.
Connections
over content. That,
and I think that's something like it's a repetitive theme that but it's so important. It's such a crucial building block to an effective teacher. Is like getting the buy-in. Like you can know you can know every historical topic, and you might have like a PhD in European history and whatever, but none of that matters if you can't get the kids to listen to you, or at least buy into you. Like they don't have to like you. They just have to respect you and listen to you.
I know a few history teachers where I could listen to them all day talk, but once they get in front of the classroom, the kids are gonna freaking eat them up. And it's like, man, you should have been like I keep thinking in my head, man, you should have been a college teacher.
Yeah, well, it's a different setup
because it's a totally different culture.
So when you are looking back at my first 2-3 years teaching, and one of the things that I take away from my student teaching is my mentor said, honestly, kid, you don't really know what your teaching style is until probably year 6 or 7 because you're learning all these things, you're learning content, whatever, but it's like what you feel comfortable and eventually add to your teacher toolbox you don't really have until several years down the road. Yeah. But thinking back,
very good point.
Thinking back, are there any interesting like moments while teaching or stories that you can think of? Because I can think of several things that like went down like, what the hell? Anything that stands out to you? Bob?
Like negative?
Like funny or like scary. Like for example, I guess I'll share one. One like it's funny now, but I remember this kid fell asleep in my class.
Oh yeah.
Right, and it was like my second year teacher. And as a teacher, sometimes like it's easy to sort of get lost in the fact that you're trying to give instruction and like they're not paying attention or whatever, or they fall asleep. But we don't sometimes like we don't understand what that kid's going through or why are they sleeping so often.
Yeah.
But this kid fell asleep, right? And so it's my second year teaching, and it was towards the end of the class. I was like, you know what, maybe like 3-4 minutes before the bell rang, and it was going to be lunch. And so I tell everybody, hey, I put up on the board, it's like quietly, row by row, everybody, you're excused, do not wake this kid up. Like, shh.
Yeah.
Shh.
Yeah.
And so they leave, right? And it was right before lunch. Boom, everybody leaves. The bell rings. This kid's still passed out. He's out. He's out. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to leave him there. I'm going to let him be. And then after lunch, I had my planning period. So I went and had lunch with some of my neighbor teachers. And then after that, I went and met with another teacher who had planning. And so when I got back to my class, you're talking about 2-3 classes later, he was still asleep.
God.
And I'm like, what the heck? It's like, dude. And I was like, I shake the desk. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, drooling. He's like, wow. Is it lunch yet? I'm like, it's like, dude, lunch was over like a period ago. This is like 6th period.
Yeah.
And he's like, what the hell? And he got up all scared, like literally he was just drooling. I was like, oh, and he left. And I'm like, what the hell? I gotta stick around and clean the drool off. I had to go get paper towels.
I've done this a couple times. It was like right out of Scott Fullerton's playbook.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
he was, God, I think I was a legend. He pulled that stunt before, and I couldn't help it. Like every time I see a kid's pet, but they're really passed out.
Yeah.
And kids who go along with you, get in front of the classroom, like,
He's asleep.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then everybody would just go along with it. And, yeah, but the funny thing that does is it just depends on your rapport with the kids and that classroom culture also.
Mm-hmm.
Every class is different. You could read how to do different stunts, but every once in a while you get a class, one of these golden classes you could just pull crap with, and it builds culture in the classroom. Like you gain rapport with the kids in certain ways where they'll tend to listen to you a little bit more. And there's just so many different ways to, and I don't recommend that stuff. But
it just depends on the culture you create with your students.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm ever going to do that again.
Yeah.
In case future bosses.
You know what? I also remembered. Oh man, like I felt bad, but at the same time, I kind of didn't. It sounds bad, but that kid who always wants to be funny and play a prank or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's kind of annoying. Well, there's this one kid. I'm not gonna say his name, but he knows who he is. He pissed his pants.
Oh man.
Like he was like, and I don't understand why he didn't make a bigger deal. Like I need to go to the restroom. Like, he's just like quietly. Like I can't remember exactly what the lesson is, whatever. But I remember he asked me to go to the restroom, and I said, give me a minute or hold on a second. Let me explain this because I don't want to explain myself again. And so he didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And so after that, he just kind of stood there. He's like, I can kind of see him like kind of moving a little bit. When you have to go pee or whatever. And next thing you know, like he just like had this like blank stare in his face, like
nightmare.
You know that look. Like he's just like staring off in the distance, like. Oh crap! And I could see him not want to move.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of the class, I'm like, "What's up, man?" He's like, he just looked at me like, "Can I be the last to leave?"
Yeah. You can get away with farting in class, maybe.
Maybe, but
pissing your pants.
He gave me this look like, "Can I be the last to leave?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And so as he was leaving, he's like, "Mr. Castillo," he's like, "I had an accident." I'm like, "What? What do you mean?" And he's like, "I had to go to the bathroom really bad." And I'm like, What do you mean? And he just kind of looks down, and I like kind of look at by his chair, and I could see that by the carpet, it's wet. And he just looked at me like, oh crap! And he was like so embarrassed, like at the moment, like I felt bad for him. And then, so what I did, I was like, there was a sweater or something, I don't even know what it was. I'm like, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna wrap the sweater around you, and you're gonna go to the restroom and clean yourself off, dry yourself off as much as you can, and then I'm gonna let you call home and have them pick you up or bring you.
Do you know if he got caught by anybody?
I don't know because
peers.
I don't know, but after that, he was like a saint.
Yeah.
And it's probably because he knew that I knew what had happened, and he was embarrassed.
Yeah.
And he never like.
He was afraid.
He
do something stupid. He'd be like, you pissed your pencil.
Yeah.
Like that,
but I think also because I helped him out, and he gained a little bit of like respect for me or whatever. Like he's like, okay, he had my bag.
This guy will cover for me.
And so I'm like, listen, kid, you're not cool until you pee your pants. You know, like Billy Madison. Yeah. So, but no, that's one. I mean, there's a ton of stories that are.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
They're kind of more like
Billy
extreme and stuff,
that.
but I won't share. But definitely those are a couple that stand out. But I don't know. It's the things that happen, you know. And there's crazier stories, but it's interesting.
Advice for first year teachers. I mean, whenever there's a new teacher on campus, I always try to like clock it just as far as like your teacher training, your induction, like how do you prepare for the first year of class, first year in the classroom, first few weeks, whatever. And then you go into the summer and you get to reflect on how to change things in sex. I mean, there's so. But for me, I want to the best of my ability to try to simplify all the lingo.
Yeah.
So, for example, somebody say, "Oh, well, did you differentiate instruction?" Like, what the hell? I had to go look it up. Oh, that's what it means.
Oh, that's what you mean.
And all it means is that kids go at different paces, or they have different learning abilities. So how do you structure that pacing for different kids?
Just give them
feed them different assignments to get the same content.
Give them
like,
different
that's what that means. So it was
to learn.
It was more lingo like that.
Yeah.
So now the new one is like a SEL. What is that? Is that for kids learning English and it's social emotional learning? And hey, Nick, do you teach that? I'm like, man, I've been teaching that for years.
Yeah.
And the idea is just like inclusion.
Yeah.
You know, and the reality is, I've been told this since my first year, their hour with you might be their best hour of the day. And I thought about that. How could my class be the best? So even if it's not my class, I do remember in high school I mean,
but
you get bored and you find ways to entertain yourself. And I was an ADD kid, so I constantly raised my hand and asked.
But isn't that a crazy thought to think that within that hour that you have a kid, that might be the highlight? Like,
that's depressing, man.
Well, it's like,
but
but it's
Ladder.
true. It is. It's kind of humbling too. It's like, wow, because again, we don't ever know what kids are going through. But like you said, giving advice. I always think of two things. If I had to give, anytime I meet a new teacher or first year, second year teacher, I always tell them two things. Like, for one, and it kind of comes back to that connections, right? Is invest some time at the beginning of the school year. Invest time with the kids, like not just getting to know them, letting them get to know you a little bit. And not to say like you have to share your personal life or whatever, but it's just like, this is how I function. This is what, this is what I'm about. What are you about? And
set
and just
an environment where they're not scared to ask you certain questions.
Exactly.
And how do you do that? I mean,
again,
every personality is different in that respect.
So it's important to understand like how different a personality each kid has, and some of them are similar, whatever. But it's just like the simple things of saying, "Hey, good morning, how you doing? Hey, I like your shirt. Where'd you get that?" Like, oh, he's talking to me. Like, okay, and it's just like the little things. It's, "Hey, good morning. Oh, thank you for doing that." Like, it's like, oh, wow, like they're really paying attention.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I tell them, invest some time with your students early on to build that rapport. And I tell them they don't have to like you, but they need to respect you.
That's
like
a key
they,
one.
They need to trust you and respect you.
Hey.
Don't try to get them to like you. That's different. Like liking you and respecting you are not the same thing.
So,
they need to gain your trust and respect you.
My wife told me a story about this teacher she had in high school, and I had the same teacher earlier. And I guess my wife, she's just, you know, she was a different pill. It's not that she was a bad person, whatever. She had this face where she just don't enjoy people around her. But that's not the case at all. She's introverted, right? So I guess this teacher was having problems with her. She took my wife outside and was like, hey, you know, and you think, hey, are you okay? Whatever. And this teacher instead told her, why don't you like me? And my wife, even at 17, 18 years old, like, she's like, hey, you're the adult. What the hell?
Yeah.
So that story alone definitely reshaped my approach to every single situation. So I'll never show that I'm upset at class.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could give a metaphor for every teacher, a kid shows up and ding dong ditches, right? Okay. They go knock on your door. You could do a couple things. You could run out, catch you, fool them, go tell your mom, you try to chase them all over the neighborhood. They actually, why else would they ding dong ditch? They want to see you open the door. Who the hell is it?
Yeah.
But what if you never answer the door? And what if you never give that attention to them? Then it loses all its luster, and then their way of gaining attention at the expense of in the classroom, going back to the classroom, at the expense of the classroom environment, that thing is kind of lost for them.
Yeah.
So if I could give a new teacher advice to the best of your ability, you know, they're late 4 times. Hey, I'm not upset at you, but I need you to write referrals procedure. And you treat everybody the same. Yeah. You can't let any kid know that you have favorites. It's a huge deal.
It's kind of like that. Like, I always think of like, if you make fun of yourself before someone makes fun of you, it kind of takes away that ammunition.
Eminem.
Like, can they really make fun of you if you're making fun of yourself?
8 Mile, baby.
You know?
8 Mile, that last scene. That's
exactly. That's a great scene. So it's like, don't try so much to get the kids to like you. If anything, they need to respect you.
Yeah.
So
I told kids that, look at, hey, you don't have to like me, but you know what? I like you. I want you to do well.
Yeah.
And we can't do this because
if they respect
30
you,
other kids in the classroom, and like that.
And if they respect you, it's more than likely they're gonna probably like you, right? So, but it's all about gaining their trust, gaining their respect. I'm gonna give a special shout out to this fly that you invited here today into your classroom. It's making an appearance.
There's 2 of them.
Yeah, so they came in pairs. The other thing, and the last thing I'll share about advice is. For first-year teachers is seek a mentor, like somebody who you could reach out to for ideas, not just for teaching, like curriculum, but somebody who could give you some support.
Great mentor
at your school site, especially for your department. Or
great
your
advice, real advice, not yes men. You're doing great. You're special.
No. It's more like hey, how do I do this? At like administrative items, you know, like grade book. Where to find things on campus, you know, who to talk to about, hey, I need to make copies, or get to know your secretaries. Like secretaries are so important to how schools function.
Oh God!
But
don't treat your secretaries like trash. Don't treat your custodians like trash. Man, you need everybody here. It's a whole thing. Every time I meet somebody who does like special ed or school psychology, man, you guys
make my life so much easier. The people behind the scenes,
you guys make my life so much easier, and you guys are the unsung heroes.
So they are definitely they hold the school together. But seek a mentor for the day-to-day things on campus, and especially for your department or your grade level. If you're teaching first grade, second grade, or whatever, like you want to have somebody who you can like not sort of like depend on all the time or like rely on, but it's like somebody your go-to person. So I definitely would say seek a mentor. Yeah. So I don't know what you.
Unless you're a PE teacher, you don't have to worry about anything.
When I grow up, I want to be a PE teacher.
I did it for 2 months right before my first year teaching.
Yeah.
Boy, it is the gig.
But yeah, man. I mean, the struggle is real, and they're so crucial, especially with we talk about teacher shortages and
it's intimidating, man.
It's
and
hard.
That's the thing. Teacher shortages. What's going on? We are not saying like us, every single teacher, but there are certain characters, and there's definitely a program that intimidates good talent away from the profession. And you could have all the credentials, master degrees in the world, but if you don't have the right mentor and the right motive and the right interest in that, man, this profession could be crazy intimidating. And
that's why we need to give them the proper resources and the proper tools to be successful. Like we want them to be successful, so that way, the more successful they are, the stronger the school community becomes.
Yeah, we just had a kid come in last year, and I remember at the beginning he was taking lessons from somebody else, using theirs, and repeatedly. So, he had some stuff to do after school. He's also, do some on the side, doing some mentoring on the side. And so one day he realized that, to create my own culture, do my own thing, I have to go this route. And I was like, dude, people are always watching, but two, like, there's a lot more to this.
Yeah.
I have a real problem with somebody who walks in the profession and just hands out worksheets like that. That kind of hurts me.
There's nothing wrong with worksheets, but
it's creating a whole culture. So to me, it's like that hour of the day in your classroom could be the best day. I remember some classes making me sick to my stomach, just how that adult treated certain kids or made certain kids feel, the way they put them down, or whatever. And it just makes me sick when people just blow stuff off and do whatever on any given day, every single day. So whenever I see certain professionals come in and expect that, I'm like, hey, you better rewire your brain real quick, because there's a lot to this. By the end of the year, that person's like, man, I've never done something so hard in my life. They told me that.
Yes.
And I mean, I didn't expect that. I didn't like, yeah, I got him. It was more of like, it made me reflect on my second year teaching.
Yeah.
Like, I remember those days where
it takes a different, it takes like a stamina, right?
Yeah.
Like right now we're like week 3. We got parent night tonight.
Yeah.
And like that first week of school is always the most exhausting one for me, because it's like getting back into the swing of talking all day and standing on your feet, walking around.
What percentage of the names of your students do you think you know? We're in week 3 on Wednesday. We're 2.5 weeks deep.
I have 143 students right now, and I would say with confidence I know about 60% of their names.
Wow, that's a lot.
I know.
I think I'm at 10 to 25 best.
Well, because I like I have flashcards. Like I call them out. Like
I don't even. They're so in and out.
I'm really trying.
They're so in and out the first 2 weeks. Like I don't, like to a
That's
certain
true.
point, I don't even bother.
That's true.
And then every once in a while, like you get parents. And I'm sorry if you're one of these parents doing this, like messaging me. I will not return. I will not return these messages, because you know what? I don't want to know who your kid is, because I don't think your kid or anybody else's kid. I don't think my kid should be treated any different, because there's kids out there who don't have that social capital. What does that mean? That is parents who know somebody, or parents with certain resource, connection, ties to community, or certain money. And there's more, like 95% of the kids don't have any of that. So when you offer a kid certain privilege like that, you're just going to alienate the rest of the kids in the class. So if you have ever messaged me before the school year started or something like that, hey, my kid's here, I ignore it. I will leave it on like unread. So I apologize ahead of time if I've ever done that to you as a parent. I'll have some beers with you and talk to your kid after the year is over, because trust me, all the kids I've ever had, they're absolutely amazing. And I'm not just saying that. We all have a good time in different ways.
So those are my couple of things I give advice for first year. So and so I think it's grown to 2%. So for the 2% of our listeners out in England,
we're at 2%.
Yeah, we're at 2%.
Blowing up.
And I think it's by accident, maybe. But if you're a first year teacher out in the other side of the world, invest some time with your students, get to know them, let them get to know you, gain their trust and respect, and then seek a mentor, somebody who can support you.
With your coach, you're running a youth program. You're doing. You're running a dance class.
Teaching is
coaching.
Teacher.
Coaching is teaching.
Coaching, vice versa.
Coaching is teaching. It's all. We all do the same thing. That's
exactly.
it. Absolutely.
Best thing all week, puppy. What's the best thing you've seen all week?
You know what? My best thing of the week is also kind of my worst thing of the week also. So I recently had a family member died. And this is going to sound sick, but when a family member dies, that means we have a funeral. And when there's a funeral, I get to see all of my family shows up. And man, and I always tell my family, hey, you know what? Somebody's either got to get married real quick or die real quick soon, because I really enjoy seeing you guys. Yeah. And so the older we get, I find that family gets together a little bit less, a little bit. And we all have kids.
But it's not just any type of funeral. You were saying this earlier.
It's a Mexican, man. There was so much beer. I was drunk. I don't remember how I got home. I just know my parents drove me home, They stayed at my place that night, but
It's different. When we
I
get
just-
together as family, especially like you said, funerals.
Yeah.
It's sad, but as we get older, those are the only times we really get a chance to see each other. But definitely,
Your
not-
family is all those people, especially the ones older than you. They're
Yeah.
all the ones that shaped who you are.
Exactly.
And so me, I just have a special place for stuff like that. So I love seeing family. Unfortunately, it was under those circumstances. So my worst and best of the week, I got to drop it on that.
My
funeral.
condolences to your family. I remember you
Yeah.
told me like, "Oh, I'm looking forward to it." Like, I'm like, what? He's like, "Well, no, not because I lost family, but it's because I'm gonna get to see my family members I
Yeah.
haven't seen in so long." It's like it's a reunion.
Yeah.
Under unfortunate circumstances, but yeah, I can definitely see what you mean.
Not
by that.
everybody shows up to reunions. Some people skip weddings.
Yeah.
Everybody shows up to the funerals. Everybody shows up to funerals. So it was good to see you, my family.
Yeah.
I hope we do it again soon
In a different
in a
circumstance.
different circumstance.
Somebody get married in the Santana family.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that's right, baby. Oh,
So.
we could always kidnap you, fake a death. Maybe we could do it that route. We'll get creative. We'll see how it goes.
Hey, sounds like a good time.
Yeah. What you got?
Best thing I've seen all week. It was kind of like under it's kind of scary circumstances, but it has to do with a picture my cousin sent me, and they were crammed in a hospital room bed. You know, like you go to a hospital room, you visit, and they have that little bench by the window.
It's only 2 visitors.
We're supposed to be, right? Well,
but if you're Mexican.
but we do things differently sometimes, especially when somebody's in the hospital. My uncle recently, he suffered a mild stroke or whatever. He's fine, luckily. But my
Oh.
cousins sent me a picture. It's 5 grown ass men.
Wait, hold up. We got it.
Oh,
Oh, wife's
oh.
calling. Hang on.
So,
Hey, you're on the air. What's up?
hi, Christina.
Hi.
You're on the air. We're done with the episode. I'm gonna take off right now.
Do you have
Yeah, you probably
Do I
have
what?
to speak.
Yeah, back to school night tonight. Yeah. So I'm gonna rush home 6. I'll call you right back. Okay, bye. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you to my wife. I'm sorry I cut the story
So,
off.
to make a long, pretty short, you have 5 grown ass men crammed into a bench, like sitting and laying over each other. My cousins out from Madera, California. Shout out to my primos del Toros. They're crammed in the hospital room bed or bench in the room with my uncle, and they're just kind of out there hanging out and there with my uncle. He's fine. Everything went well, but it just, to me, it was like a. And we often get reminded, but this was just another reminder to not take things for granted and how important family is. To me, like that's the biggest and the most important thing
Yeah.
is family, and to tell your loved ones how you feel. Tell your loved ones you love them, or at least show them that you love them. And
Yeah,
so-
yeah, that's what I was saying. You don't even have to tell them. All you have to do is show
yeah.
up.
And so
Sometimes all you have to do is show up.
and there's different ways to show it. I have to kind of show you the picture real quick, but basically it's 5, I guess, again, grown ass men from the ages 39 to, I want to say maybe, how old is Junior? 49, 50?
It's a great age.
Yeah, and it's again, it's just a simple reminder to not take things for granted, because you just never know. I don't know how old your cousin was. Who
He's
passed away.
38.
That's crazy. Like he's barely getting started. I don't know. I'll have to show you some other time. But it was a funny picture. Oh, here it is.
With everybody,
It's
the
a
last time
funny
you see
pic-
them, you don't realize the last time you're see them. It's
And,
always like that.
And so here you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 grown ass men laying out
beautiful.
there.
There you go.
So here's a shout out to my primos. There they are, all
That's
crammed
gold,
up on the
baby.
bench.
That's gold.
But that's love right there. That's love. So shout out to my family.
Yeah.
Love you guys. So we got parent night tonight.
Let's do it, baby.
So
Another year.
another year, another adventure. So
Trying to convince more parents this year that we think we know what we're doing.
that's true. So back at it. Hey, I love you.
Yeah, man. I love you, man.
All right. See you guys next time.